According to NASA's Space Act, signed on July 29, 1958, Section 102, Paragraph C, Subparagraph A, we read, information obtained or developed by the administrator in the performance of his functions under this Act shall be available for public inspection, except information authorized or required by federal statute to be withheld and information classified to protect the national security. Would NASA consider contact with an extraterrestrial civilization a threat to national security? And if they did, would they classify it to protect the national security?
That's what this investigation is about. We're probing deep inside of NASA, looking for answers into what may be UFOs appearing during space shuttle missions and trying to find out an answer, because we know that they wouldn't come out and tell us. They would classify to protect the national security. So again, what's very disturbing, what's funny about it is they can't actually find the mirror because there's so many other things actually moving around out there.
This is Mission Control, Houston. We are using the payload bay cameras right now to hopefully catch a glimpse of the Russian space station Mir as it performs an on-orbit burn. Though it will be difficult to pick Mir out from the stars as they pass behind us, the payload bay cameras are positioned such that they're looking straight back behind the orbiter, where the Mir is flying at about 850 nautical miles behind us.
No joy from here. Sorry. Hope it was a good one, though, for our friends.
Thank you, sir. We could not see it here either. We'll wait 2 or 3 more minutes till sunrise, and then at that time give you a go for KU stow.
With a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 13 hours, and 17 minutes. This is Mission Control, Houston. The Mir space station is now visible on the far left-hand side of the screen, about an inch from the bottom of this particular picture. Okay, the Mir space station is the small flashing light in the center, about an inch from
Camera Charlie on a monitor.
the left-hand side of the screen. It's slowly...
Charlie, how on the camera?
It is slowly moving closer to the left-hand side and is has a very light flashing to it.
We think on the middle of the screen, way to the left-hand side. We think you can see a flashing light just a little bit to the left of the center of the screen, very faint.
Yeah, we do see something flashing visually, but we're not sure that might be
This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, we believe we were just able to spot the Mir spacecraft as it flies about 850 nautical miles behind Discovery.
So you just saw the footage. You saw a lot of things streaking out there. You saw the confusion of the astronauts trying to find the space station Mir, and in the end, they never really find it. Again, if what we're looking at is the number one contention of NASA is everything on these videotapes is just debris floating by, and we're seeing optical illusions. Do you really think an astronaut can't tell the difference between the space station Mir and a piece of debris, a piece of dust, or a cookie crumb floating through space? Of course they can tell the difference. So whatever the other objects are that are moving around out there obviously aren't debris. They're other objects that are obscuring their view and are confusing the astronauts. But even more peculiar to me, the theory that the streaking objects are actually meteorites. If the streaking objects were really meteors, then why do they never appear in this video to burn up and disintegrate into the atmosphere? If they were meteors, they should behave like them. And even more curious, as the shuttle is flying 200 miles above the top of the atmosphere, why are we seeing meteors at all? In theory, they should be invisible, dark bodies until they strike the upper atmosphere and start to produce a meteoric burn, making them luminous and clearly visible. But many of these streaking objects are highly luminous, way above the top of the atmosphere. Could they be unidentified flying objects? The next thing you're about to look at is called the Hubble Repair Mission Sequence. It shows two astronauts repairing the Space Hubble telescope. What's peculiar about it is there's an object going behind them. It has a kind of a light flashing to it. And it goes behind the astronauts, and we actually hear them talking about it. So listen closely to what they actually say.
Looks like you got an object right in front of you, Mark. Can you look out there? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Never mind. Are we missing something? Don't see anything. Yeah, we think the camera filter came off, Mark. It's about your 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock going away. Don't worry about it.
So what were the astronauts actually saying? We heard, it looks like you got an object right out there in front of you, Mark. Are you looking out there? It's about your 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock going away. Don't worry about it. We know the astronaut on the left is probably the one we're talking about. That's probably Mark, because at his 11 o'clock position is where we actually see the UFO, or we see the unidentified object. It has a light flashing to it. It's definitely going behind them. So we can assume immediately that obviously these astronauts are not talking about space debris or space junk going by, because it's obviously something of significance. It captures their attention for a moment, and they're told to ignore it and to focus on the repair of the mission. So we could assume maybe they've been seeing these things frequently out there. Maybe this is an ordinary occurrence, and it's not something they should become so alarmed about. Later we hear, we think the camera filter came off, Mark. We know camera filters are screwed tightly onto cameras, and there's no way they would unscrew in space and go floating out there. So obviously, again, this is one of NASA's blatant lies, trying to tell the public during a live broadcast that what we're seeing is something that they can explain.